Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something, well, fundamental. We're diving into the nature of time itself.
Which is, perhaps reality's most elusive concept.
Exactly. And for ages, we've had these two main ideas, right? Either time is this absolute clock ticking away.
The Newtonian view.
Or it's part of space-time, flexible, stretchable, like Einstein showed us with general relativity.
Right. GR gave us time dilation, linked time to gravity and geometry. But it still sort of assumes time exists.
That's the key point. Our source today, excerpts from Part 18 of the Graviton Pressure Theory, or GPT, by Sharif Ali Rashada, it does something totally different.
It tries to derive time, not just assume it. It's a completely different starting point.
And that's our mission for this deep dive, to really get into this radical claim from GPT. The theory says time is not fundamental. Instead, it's an emergent property, something that just arises from physical forces.
Specifically, from directional graviton pressure gradients, it's a field effect.
So time becomes local, field-contingent, derived from force, not just geometry.
That's the absolute core distinction you need to hold on to. GPT makes us rethink gravitons entirely.
Okay.
They're seen as directional, massless, and crucially self-repulsive. And they aren't just passive force carriers.
They're active drivers.
They're the active drivers of what we perceive as temporal progression. They are literally setting the clock for every single structure.
Okay, wow. So if gravitons are the clock setters, what is time in this model? What are they actually measuring or causing?
Right, so the definition GPT provides is, time is the observable rate at which a system's internal state is refreshed.
Refresh, like a screen refresh rate.
Kind of, yeah. It's driven by this directional graviton pressure. So forget time as this external river carrying us along. Think of it more as an internal clock speed for every system, a rhythm of updates maintained by the field.
Which immediately means time isn't universal.
Exactly. It becomes a system-dependent variable. It all depends on how a specific system interacts with that incoming graviton flow.
And you mentioned two key factors.
Yes, its coherence and its impedance. Those determine the local time rate.
This implies that, theoretically, two things sitting side by side could experience time differently, even without massive gravity, just based on their internal properties.
Precisely. Time is generated locally. The mechanism is interaction-based. Every time a graviton interacts with matter, it induces a state update, a tiny refresh. That update is a fundamental unit of temporal progression for that structure.
So more updates per second means faster local time?
You got it. More frequent updates, faster local time rate. It moves time from the abstract, coordinate geometry.
And something purely mechanistic. Physical interaction.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's treat time like a frequency then, a refresh frequency. Let's call it $4. What determines how high or low that frequency is? What are the variables?
So the framework gives us two critical variables that govern this $4, and therefore the local time rate, the local. The first one is impedance. Think of it as structural resistance. How much does the system fight back against that graviton flow, like friction?
Okay, impedance is resistance. What's the second?
The second is coherence. This is about alignment, efficiency. How cleanly does the system interact with the flow? Does it let the gravitons pass through smoothly, or does it scatter them everywhere?
Okay. Like tuning a radio signal. Impedance is the static. Coherence is how clear the signal comes through.
That's a really good analogy, actually. Impedance is noise. Coherence is clarity.
So if you want time to run fast locally,
you want low impedance, low resistance, and high coherence, clear interaction.
Right. That combination gives you rapid, clean refresh cycles, faster local time.
And the opposite holds true. High impedance, lots of resistance, or low coherence, a messy interaction.
It disrupts the flow.
It disrupts the flow, slows down the refresh rate, and that's what we perceive as time dilation.
Okay, let's unpack this impedance thing a bit more, especially how it connects to mass and time dilation. Because GPT offers a very different explanation here than general relativity, doesn't it?
It does. In GPT, mass isn't just, an inherent property of matter. It's defined as a structure's impedance to this graviton flow.
So mass is the resistance.
Yes. And this is fundamental. That impedance is why mass generates gravitational effects, according to the theory. But that very same resistance, it also acts like a throttle on the system's refresh rate. It slows down those state updates.
So high impedance systems are just inherently slower internally.
Structurally slower, yes. The term GPT uses is temporal drag. Mass causes temporal drag.
Okay, but let's clarify. Gi says mass curves space-time, and that geometric curve changes time's flow. How is GPT's mechanism different at the micro level? Is it just relabeling?
That's a fair challenge. The key difference is mechanism versus geometry. In GR, time dilation is a result of the curved geometry.
Right.
In GPT, it's presented as a direct mechanistic cause. Remember the radio analogy?
Yeah, static and clarity.
Okay, so imagine that graviton signal hitting something really dense and resistive, a high-mass object. The flow encounters significant impedance.
So the gravitons get scattered, locked.
Scattered, dephased. The theory suggests a kind of energetic traffic jam forms. They can't flow through cleanly.
A graviton traffic jam. I like that.
Right. And that congestion, that messy interaction, means the structure simply can't receive the next clean state update signal as quickly.
There's a delay.
There's a delay. It takes longer for the field to sort of realign itself and deliver that refresh pulse to the structure's state. GPT calls this field refresh latency.
And that latency is time dilation.
That latency, caused directly by the structural impedance, is the slowdown in the local time rate. It's very direct. High impedance, low refresh rate, slow time. Mass is essentially the drag coefficient for time.
Okay, that's much clearer. It feels more physical, less abstract than bending geometry.
That's the aim of the theory, yes, a mechanistic explanation.
So, if mass and impedance act as the cosmic brake pedal for time, let's talk about the accelerator. Coherence.
Right. If impedance blocks the flow, coherence is about smoothing it out, coupling efficiently.
How does high coherence, specifically amplified time, act as a temporal amplifier?
Well, a highly coherent structure, think of a perfect crystal lattice, or maybe atoms aligned in a magnetic field. Its components interact smoothly, predictably. This internal order reduces its overall impedance to the directional graviton flow.
Less internal friction, basically.
Exactly. Less friction, better alignment. This allows for more frequent and more accurate state updates from the field.
It's like having a perfectly balanced engine versus one that's rattling all over the place. The balanced one can run at a much higher RPM.
That's a great way to put it. Aligned structures simply undergo more state updates per unit of, let's say, external reference time. Their local time accelerates.
And this connects to our own experience.
Yes, this is where GPT gets really interesting, connecting mechanism to subjective perception via temporal resolution.
Right, rollers.
Yeah.
That's like a perceived bandwidth of time, how clearly we resolve moments.
Precisely. And the theory proposes $2 is proportional to the system's coherence divided by its impedance. So high coherence and low impedance gives you high temporal resolution.
And the source links this to real experiences.
Yeah, it does. Think about emergency focus, that near-miss car accident where time seems to slow down, everything stretches out.
Yeah, definitely felt that.
GPT suggests that's not just psychology. It proposes that the intense focus creates a spike in neural coherence, reducing internal noise. This temporary state allows the brain system to achieve a higher refresh rate.
So your brain is literally processing more frames per second because it's momentarily more coherent.
That's the interpretation offered, yes.
Yeah.
More data points per unit of external time, making subjective time feel stretched.
Wow. Okay. What else?
Consider deep meditative states. The goal is often to reduce mental entropy, right? To quiet the internal noise. That process enhances systemic coherence. According to GPT, this should increase your temporal resolution, rudderless, leading to that common feeling in meditation of time slowing down or expanding.
It's a physiological change in time perception based on brain state coherence.
And it extends potentially to groups of neurons. Neural synchrony, when large networks of brain cells fire in coordinated patterns, could represent a state of high collective coherence.
Meaning those synchronized networks might experience a collectively faster local time rate.
Potentially allowing for faster information processing during those synchronous bursts. It connects brain states directly to local time flow via coherence.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The philosophical side. If time is just these discrete state refreshes, what on earth is memory?
Ah, yes. Memory in GPT isn't just storing data chemically. It's framed as a stabilized imprint.
An imprint. And what?
In the local graviton pressure field itself, it's a persistent pressure geometry, a pattern sustained by ongoing coherent interaction between the structure, like your brain, and the field.
So memories are like standing waves in the graviton field, maintained by the brain's coherence.
That's one way to visualize it, yes. Every coherent pattern of activity, especially if repeated, carves out a kind of geometric channel, a pressure corridor within the local field. Repetition reinforces these channels.
Okay, that changes everything about past, present, future.
Yeah.
How does GPT define those?
Based on this field interaction model, yes. The past isn't gone. It is that stabilized structure. It's the geometry of those persistent pressure corridors created by previous coherent state.
The grooves worn into the field.
Exactly. The present is the active part, the instantaneous refresh cadence, the rhythm of the graviton updates happening now, your system's current clock speed interacting with that field structure.
And the future. Is it predetermined by these grooves?
The future is defined as the resonant alignment potential. It's not strictly set, but it's the path of, let's say, least resistance, the most probable trajectory shaped by the current field resonance interacting with the existing structure of those past corridors.
Like a river finding the easiest path through an existing landscape.
A very good analogy. If the present is the water flowing now, the past is the riverbed already carved out, strongly suggesting where the water will go next, the future potential.
Which brings us to this concept of becoming B, our movement through time. GPT quantifies this.
It does. Becoming, or by your dollar, is described as the integral expression of a system's coherence over both space and time. How consistently coherent is it?
And why is high coherence so important for becoming, for moving forward?
Because high coherence stabilizes that future trajectory. It favors deterministic resonance over random stochastic wandering over noise and entropy. It locks the system into a more harmonic alignment with the graviton flow.
So the arrow of time in this view
is essentially defined as structured coherence fighting against entropy. Time is the ongoing dynamic process of maintaining that coherent structure against the tendency towards disorder.
This is fascinating because it takes time out of pure maths or philosophy and puts it squarely into testable physics.
Absolutely, and that's emphasized. GPT is presented as a predictive and, importantly, falsifiable model.
Meaning we can design experiments to see if it's right or wrong.
Exactly. If time is truly a field property tied to these mechanisms like impedance and coherence, then its effects should be mechanically consistent and detectable in ways GR wouldn't predict.
We should be able to manipulate it, locally at least.
That's the implication. The framework lays out specific experimental pathways. These directly challenge the purely geometric view of time in GR.
Okay, give us the killer experiment, the one that could really differentiate GPT.
I think one of the most compelling is coherence-dependent dilation. It directly tests the role of structure, independent of just mass.
How would that work?
You take identical, highly precise atomic clocks, place one in a standard lab environment as a control. Place another inside a structure designed for extreme coherence, but maybe not extreme mass. Think a large, near-perfect synthetic crystal, or perhaps within the field of a high-temperature superconductor.
So you're comparing time rates based on the orderliness of the environment, not just its gravitational pull.
Precisely. According to GPT, the clock inside the highly coherent crystal should experience faster local refresh rates. Its internal time should literally tick faster.
And this would show it as a measurable drift? It would run ahead of the control clock?
Yes, a measurable divergence rate. And crucially, this drift should be different from a third clock placed near a disordered, high-impedance material of roughly the same mass as the crystal.
Because GR would predict the time dilation based primarily on mass gravity.
Right. GR wouldn't expect the internal structure of the nearby material, crystal versus disordered blob, to cause such a difference, assuming their gravitational fields are similar. But GPT demands this difference based on coherence influencing the local graviton field interaction.
If that experiment worked, that would be huge.
It would be revolutionary, yes.
Yeah.
A direct validation of time as a field interaction property.
And beyond just testing, the theory points towards actual applications, potential technologies.
It does, and they sound like science fiction, but they follow logically from the premises. The idea of corridor engineering.
Engineering corridors in the graviton field.
Essentially, yes. Designing specific coherent lattice structures, materials engineered at the nanoscale maybe, specifically to optimize or manipulate the local graviton interaction rates.
To create zones of faster or slower local time.
That's the theoretical possibility. Building localized time accelerators or decelerators based on structural coherence.
Imagine the implications for computing. A processor built with maximum internal coherence could potentially run its operations in its own accelerated local time frame.
Compared to the outside world, yes. Or think about biology. The theory touches on enhancing cognitive function by inducing higher biological coherence.
Using external fields, perhaps. Like focused resonance fields.
Possibly. Using structured fields, maybe spin-aligned fields, to gently encourage neural networks towards higher states of coherence.
Which, according to the theory, would increase their temporal resolution, their TWIA.
Leading to potentially faster information processing, enhanced focus, maybe even altered subjective time perception. All induced technologically, time stops being just a background constant.
And becomes a tunable property, something linked directly to structural alignment with this underlying field.
That really is the core takeaway from this whole GPT perspective on time. It's not an abstract coordinate on a cosmic graph.
No, it's a physical rhythm, a measurable field-dependent beat generated by these continuous graviton pressure cycles interacting with matter.
And importantly for you, the listener, this means your own subjective experience of time when it feels like it's flying or dragging might be fundamentally tied to your own system's coherence, your brain's coherence, and its impedance, its alignment with this universal graviton field.
So the big picture question then, what does all this really mean if it holds true?
Well, if time truly is a function of structural coherence, it forces us to ask something profound. If we can engineer systems, biological, computational, material, to achieve dramatically different states of coherence, and therefore experience fundamentally different rates of this temporal becoming, what does that do to our concepts of simultaneity, of shared reality? Could the future involve creating systems that operate on vastly accelerated timelines compared to their environment?
By manipulating their structure to optimize interaction with the graviton field.
Exactly. Time becomes potentially malleable, structured, maybe even controllable. It's no longer just something we endure. It's something we might eventually engineer, a provocative thought to leave you with.